like 1 o'clock.
Well, at least
Nah.
you were able to listen to that Kanye West Part 2 interview.
Oh, Mike, I had plenty of time to do that in traffic.
I mean, sure, while we're welcoming everybody into the room, man, what did you think of it? And we'll get to all of our notes and all that stuff in a second, but what did you think of Part 2, and do you think it was even necessary?
My overall take on the interview,
Mm-hmm.
it was some more very like insightful stuff. I try to focus on his highlights, not his lowlights, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And so he said some very thought provoking and astounding things once again that I think people are not paying much attention to because of the person who's saying it. But one of the most poignant things about it was when he started listing some of the things that people say that make him crazy. And when you start saying those things out loud, it really makes you say that people are crazy because it's crazy to call somebody crazy because of those things.
Exactly. And you know what? To kind of piggyback on what you just said, I think that a part two, at first I was like, is a part two necessary? First of all, it was necessary to bring on Larry Hoover Jr. To, speak about his father and what his father's going through. And, to finally hear it on a large platform, from his perspective. And shout out to Kanye for that too, because, all the time we have like different media outlets on the internet, bloggers, whatever. They like to get out here and glorify certain things, and no one really gives the family outlets to speak about some of the injustices and things that they're fighting for currently and what their life is like on a day to day. So shout out to Kanye for allowing that outlet to happen. But I do think this was also necessary in the fact that he said a lot that last interview. And even though you can never really say a Kanye interview is focused, because he's always all over the place, but this was a lot more focused on the substance other than, the shock value of him just dragging, Talib, even though that happened in this one too. But I think that this was necessary so that he could actually touch on some heavier things without, consistently being cut off or or just being distracted from, something else that's going on. There's I think the strong point of artists who are experienced artists who have those relationships being able to do interviews now, I think there's a strong point to it. And I love the fact that Nori is in this space and artists clearly feel comfortable talking to him. It's kind of like I don't know if you've seen when Beast Mode was at, I think it was the Super Bowl, and he wouldn't talk to anybody in the media. And when Deion Sanders came up there, yeah, he ran up Deion telling him whatever. And you need that. You need artists to feel comfortable enough where they can actually express themselves in front of their peers. I just wish that, and the downside of that is I just wish that, some of the artists who are in that space and who are able to obtain that, large audience and get great interviews like this, just do a better job of following up with questions and keeping the conversation going and not, just kind of cutting conversations off at the knees. You know what I mean?
So I want to kind of piggyback off of just your overall thought process about the lane that's created with having kind of like prior players, I mean former players and artists, that the other artists feel comfortable in that space going to, and all of that is valid because one of my biggest takeaways from this is if you look at the tape time between part one and part two, Mike, we're talking about pretty much 4 hours of tape time. Where
Mm-hmm.
else was Ye gonna go and get to speak freely like this for 4 hours? Because I think a lot of what he was even speaking to and why he even approached it in this manner and chose Drink Champs is because he's even saying something about look where I have to go to speak like this freely. Like you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And that's why he is so community oriented and he says some of the things that he says because like unlike a lot of people, no, Mike, I mean, no, unlike almost every other black person in his position, like he knows where home is, and he sets up shop in a manner that no matter what you say about him, he can always go home, and that's kind of what this was too.
And it's
He was kind
always
of yielding his power
interesting.
in a different way. He's like, no, like I'm gonna go here because they gonna let me talk all my shit.
And it's always interesting to note that he is one of the entertainers that people act like forgot where he came from. You know, that's the narrative on Kanye. That's the reason why there is a narrative of the old Kanye, new Kanye. And listening to this interview, I just kept thinking that the Kanye that said, you know, George Bush doesn't like black people is the same Kanye that you're listening to today. You
Yeah,
just
yeah.
don't like the things that he's saying as much as what you liked what he was saying back then.
No, you want to know what, Mike? Actually, he's saying the same exact things.
Same exact. It's just different players.
Mike, no, he's actually just specified in detail what exactly it is he's talking about. Like George Bush doesn't care about black people is a broad and wide and sweeping public gesture and assertion. He breaks down for you now why George Bush doesn't care about black people. You feel me?
Oh yeah,
That's different.
it's a lot more significant. Not significant. A lot more sophisticated in certain ways that he's able to articulate it and be more direct. But the more direct that you are, like you said, that pisses people off and that turns people off. Like, oh, he's
Yeah,
crazy. It's crazy to say that. Hey, do you have your mic on? Cause
yeah, but
I'm.
Mike's home.
Oh, okay, cool, cool, cool.
Sure.
It sounded like you was like in the background or something. Shout out to everybody coming in the room. Tell a friend that we live. We were talking about this Drink Champs Part 2 from Kanye West. Did y'all see the interview? What did y'all think? But yes, he said one thing in there when he was talking about the George Bush doesn't care about black people. He said that that was socially accepted because, he was talking about the Republican Party. And we
Mm-hmm.
all know that the Democratic Party runs the media.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well, I mean,
so
at the time, yes.
I think the Democratic Party still runs the media as a whole. It's a liberal media. Like watch Saturday Night Live or something like that. It's clear where they're going. Watch these award shows. They lean more left than right. Unless you're
I,
watching the country music awards or something.
I I find that to be more a byproduct of the fact that people in the sports and entertainment and just public fields tend to be more liberal thinkers, thereby side more with the Democratic Party, and they use those platforms to exercise those views.
So most people in the hip hop entertainment industry, like the big dogs and all that, they are they are left. Why exactly? Would you say?
What do you mean? They are
They
left wide.
they lean more to democratic ways. Why exactly? Because I would venture to say, and I agree with what you're saying. I would venture to say that most of the hip hop, R&B, or anybody who's in mainstream music, mainstream culture, they're gonna fly a Democratic flag way before they fly a Republican flag, right? And
Yeah.
why is that?
I think a lot of that is just indoctrinated from our parents, and from previous generations. Like we're kind of like brought up in a frame of mind. It's like we're black, we vote Democrat over here. There's a whole lot of that in our community that still stays with us. I mean, my mother said that to me when it was time for me to register to vote. I can remember like when she said it when I was like filling out the registration card and putting it in the mail.
Yeah, me
It's just
too.
one of those things. And I can remember voting for Al Gore over George Bush and being like, man, like I don't want to pick either one of these motherfuckers really.
You
And
know,
and,
I
and doing it and voting for Al Gore only on the basis of the fact that I was black and I was taught to vote Democratic. That's how I cast my first vote for president. So I get it.
You're right, and you know what? That was my first election too. I was 18. I don't think I even took in the information. I think I watched the debates just like everyone else does. But you're right. It was more of I was gonna vote for Al Gore because that's just kind of what I've been taught to,
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't even really about who was the better candidate. Um, even though looking back on it, I still think that Al Gore, let me say this, stature wise and just the way he was able to carry himself, I think he was the better candidate. But I can't really remember policy wise what was being said, either side. So, um,
No, I remember I was heavy into it. Like,
uh huh.
Al Gore blew it. I don't really know how else to like frame that shit for you any better. He was just awkward and off putting, and W was just cool, and it was like,
Yeah.
yo, I think I can smoke a joint and go to the ball game with this motherfucker.
You're
I'm gonna
right.
vote
You're
for
right, actually. And I do remember, now that you're jogging my memory, I do remember Al Gore going to the black church and kind of like faking it and,
you.
pandering clearly, what we would call today.
All he had to do was stay cool. You had one job.
But, I do think that it's interesting that Larry Hoover Jr., was able to be a part of all of this and give a lot of information on what's going on. I even went onto their Instagram page and, followed so I can kind of be updated as well. I don't know what the details are as far as this benefit concert that Kanye's trying to put together and get Drake on one accord. But I did think it was interesting in the fact that he brought up this notion that I've heard Dame Dash speak about before. It's like they want entertainers, black entertainers, to continuously go at each other's neck, right? And and as long as you're continuously going at one another's neck, you can't really get on one accord and make power moves together. And I don't think that there's any at this point, Drake doesn't have an excuse to not unify with Kanye. And Kanye's put Drake in a position where it's like, look, I done linked up with your man, Jay Prince. We're out here fighting for Larry Hoover.
He just said he liked them. He's
Yeah.
like, I like Drake.
So it's
What
like,
do you mean?
what's the problem? And so we saw, I want to say it was yesterday, Drake did a post, or somebody did it. I think it was Jay Prince or Drake. He might have posted as well, where it was Jay Prince, Drake, and Larry Hoover Jr. in the picture, and everybody's like, "Well, where's Kanye?" Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what's the problem?
The hell going on?
Like right now, it's looking, and I don't know if Kanye's doing things on the back, in the background or whatever, but right now it's looking very one-sided.
Absolutely.
I think with all this Astro World stuff going on, and the fact that Drake's been pulled in this as well, I mean, he's gonna almost have to do this benefit.
Oh yeah, he doing the benefit.
He's gonna,
I
but
don't know
see,
what you're waiting for.
but again, man, what is the actual
Politics,
problem?
man.
What's that?
Said politics, man.
You know what it looks like, and I don't want to get on a conspiracy theory soapbox or whatnot, but it
Yeah,
looks like at this point
you do.
somebody was sent to was sending Drake to take Kanye out the game. That's what it. I mean, really, why is it so hard to just be like, you know what? We saw how easy it was for Soldier Boy, right? Kanye sent him a text. He like, man, that's what's up, bro. That's all I wanted. Boom. That's all it needs to be.
Mike, Drake, who you sending to take out Ye?
I think that's who the industry said. He got
They sent-
numbers.
That's who they sent. Okay.
There's a generation that feels like Drake's top five, right?
No, Mike, and it's fine that they feel that way, and it's also fine to be wrong. And both of those things are true in those occurrences.
But that's what I'm
So,
saying. That's who they're sending. You remember when they was doing that whole Sprite rollout where they had Nas, Rakim, Biggie, and Drake, right?
very disrespectful.
That's the narrative.
Other three guys,
Who do you think signed off on that?
oh, some white guy we don't know, Mike.
That's what I'm saying. So let's not act like there hasn't been a plan for Drake to run this thing anyway. So it's
No. There might be a plan for him to run this, but what does that have to do with Ye? Ye something else. Like Ye somewhere else that Drake can't even like fathom touching right now.
I agree, but even Kanye gives it up, and he said in this interview that there was a time where Drake was running things, and I, was feeling like I wasn't on top of music like that. Well, he kind of compared it to where he is and where Jordan Brand is, where Yeezy is and where Jordan Brand is. But yeah, I mean, if we talk about numbers though, Coop, we got to keep it real. Ain't nothing bigger than Drake in hip hop.
That's nice. Like I don't know what you want me to say. Like I respect Drake and I respect what Drake does, but it's like it's just not the same. Like I told you, it's like he's not even Wayne. So when people are saying that like he's top out, I'm like, hold up, he's not Wayne.
I know when people, you have like a lot of radio personalities that go out there, and again, they're on payroll. Let's just keep it real, man.
That's what I'm saying. What are we doing?
But
It's like
anyway, they'll go out there and
not
act
even Wayne.
like, and they'll go out there and act like Drake and Jay Z is a good comparison. Like, you know what I'm saying? They'll act like it's an even comparison, like how we talk about Jordan or LeBron. You know what I mean? And so I'm like, what are people listening to? Like, what are y'all? Everybody in the room right now. I mean, am I tripping? Is somehow Drake on the level of a Jay Z as a lyricist, or is
No, but
this
I
just
think he was.
propaganda?
I mean, he touches an emotion with a generation. I'm not gonna lie. I remember one of the last times I was with my sister and she hopped in my car. It's my youngest sister. She's 15 years younger than me.
Hmm.
So we hopped in the whip, and one of his songs just came on, and like she knew everything word for word instantly and was nodding her head. So it's like, no, I get it. I can see it. I can look in my own family and a generation younger than me and like see it. But it's just like at the end of the day, the standard that we measure things by and what things really are at the end of the day that the media is not supposed to be in control of, that we are supposed to be in control of, which is what Ye's overall message is. Like his overall message is very comparable to ours, Mike, here at According to Hip Hop. And it's like, no, like we run this shit. Like y'all don't tell us how this goes, when this goes, where this goes, or like none of that shit. You know what I'm saying?
LP says, hell no, maybe just impact in the mainstream. What does that mean? Is there impact in the mainstream? You know what I'm saying? Like,
No, it is because we're talking about Drake right now, like,
what is
or
his
people talk
impact in the
about Drake, he's
mainstream?
even better than Wayne, and he's not. Don't keep on saying that. He's not even Wayne. So why are we having this
Has
conversation?
he not had a better career end to end than Wayne?
In the end than Wayne?
Because
You understand what you're saying when you say that?
I do
You're
understand
talking
what
about
I'm
a guy
saying.
who,
Because
when you talk
Wayne
about
has
a guy
had some
who's
peaks and valleys. He
like,
has.
but you said in the end.
In the end, he's had peaks and valleys.
Oh,
I think that Wayne's had more of an incredible career, but when Drake jumped off, he's been on top of the game since he came in it.
but look at like even when I say this, when I say he's not Wayne, part of him jumping off and becoming as big as he did is because the guy who everybody considered the best rapper in the game, he came on the back of.
No,
Or
one
did I
hundred
miss that
percent.
that happened? Or did
No,
I miss that that happened?
no, 100
That's why
percent.
it's
No, no,
like
no,
he's
no.
not even
Listen,
Wayne. So he's
listen.
not even Wayne, which means in this hip hop game, we don't need to be really having this conversation. Yeah. Yeah, we
Well,
don't.
you know what? I always lean towards the bars, and I think you said that when you were talking about Bodie
We
James and the
rap
Bo
shit, yeah,
Jackson.
we
And
on
the
this rap
thing
shit.
is, like, I didn't need like 15, 20 years to know that Jay Z was one of the best MCs I had ever heard, right? I didn't need 15 to 20 years to know that Nas was one of the greatest that I ever heard. And so when I go back and, just randomly hear songs like I think Lobster and Shrimp came on the other day, when Jay jumped on Timbaland shit, and you always hear that story about how he just went in there 15 minutes and knocked that out. And it's like, dude, Drake's not even on this nigga's level. Like it ain't even a conversation. And
What are
again,
we
I
talking
hate
about?
to I hate to sound like an old nigga or whatever, but it's just not a conversation. I'll
So
even take it another step since we're talking about generational stuff. I could sit here and listen to Kendrick Lamar on field, and these guys aren't even in the same league.
don't shoot at the same hoop.
These guys aren't even in the same league, and I know that people would kind of make that a mainstream backpacker type of debate, but it's really not. Speaking of which, man, did you hear what Kanye said about using the backpackers?
Oh yeah, totally. Sounds about right.
I was kind of surprised by that because I felt that it was the other way around. I felt that he used the other guys and was a backpacker and was the person that bridged that gap. But you know what? He never mentioned Tribe, and I think Tribe is Kanye West is a solo version of a Tribe Called Quest, right? Bumped up to the next level, where it's like Tribe is kind of backpack, but really not.
No, I tell you what. So, I've made this like claim like a lot of times. Like Nas is where the baller and the backpacker meet on It Was Written. Like
Oh,
right around
definitely.
that 95, 96 time. That's where the baller and the backpacker meet because he spits in a manner that all the backpackers love. But the talk is fly and he is who he is. So like the ballers are with it too. Ye is that on 10 to me. He's
You know
that
what?
amplified.
I
He's the
don't never.
baller meets the backpacker amplified. And part of that is because it's like, well, if you really want to call it Mike, both the backpackers and the ballers use him for beats, but really in the long game, he
Mhm.
used them to get where he was. He just played the game better.
Well, you know what? I got a lot to say about that, but I want to
Please do.
address that whole Nas thing though. I never really considered Nas a backpacker. I think that he's just such a dope MC and lyricist that backpackers are forced to respect him. You know what I
But
mean?
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Where the backpacker and the baller actually meet and agree on an MC for the first time is like him because a lot of the backpackers, oh, well, they're not really with Pop
I think
or
he was
Big
just on some gritty
or
shit. You
Jay
know what
like
I'm
that.
saying?
Mhm.
Like, yeah. But see,
Yeah,
Nas was blessed with the fact that he just had the full package that the industry was gonna rock with, and that the underground was gonna rock with on a talent level.
right.
You
The
know,
baller and the backpacker meet, like I said.
now as
Yeah,
far as Kanye West using everybody, I think it's just so ironic. I don't think there's anybody who's played the game of hip hop or played everybody involved and still is playing everybody involved like a Kanye West, man. Like
right.
he knew they thought they were using him for beats, but
Hmm.
ultimately he was using them for his grand master plan, which is where he is now. And for people who don't believe that Kanye West had all this planned out, he had all three of his albums. It was more than that. It was like four or five of his albums planned out before College Dropout even dropped. He
It was five if
execute
memory serves.
Yeah, he executed out on three of those. The only thing that kind of, I won't say threw things off, but his mother passed. That's when he
Life,
went off course.
life.
And even
Yeah.
with that, I'm sure that he had a whole nother plan that he didn't share with everybody like he did initially, and he executed on it.
Hmm.
And as you say, man, you either what is it? What's the saying? Fail to fail to plan, and you plan to fail. This
Yep.
guy, he's thinking two or three steps ahead of everyone. And I've always, heralded Jay-Z for the fact that he thinks two or three steps ahead of everyone. I think Kanye thinks two or three steps ahead of Jay-Z. And and it's been proven that he has done that on every level. They didn't see his billions coming either. That was
No,
another thing
no,
that he got
no,
them
no.
on.
He's their, like I said, Mike. He's their beat maker.
Yeah. Yeah. And he played that role too. He's like, okay, yeah, look at me as the
Yeah,
beat maker.
yeah, yeah. I'm gonna make your beats for you. What you need, man?
Yeah.
What you need this? What
I
you need with
got you.
that? Hey, Mike. So where do you want to go next? Like with this interview, like one of the things that I found fascinating was when he talked about the 12,000 acres in Wyoming and the whole farming system, and talking about some of the natural resources that the earth still has in terms of how to generate power, fuel,
Yeah.
water, irrigation systems, conservation. That's what I mean. Like that's not crazy talk. Like if you think that's crazy, that means you're not paying attention
It's
to the things
crazy
that are
talk to
going
some
on
people.
around you.
It's crazy talk to some people because, like he said, with his
Not crazy.
wife becoming an attorney.
And what's going on to the price of food and the steroids being injected in the food and
Hmm.
like the shortages and what's happening to chain supply since this pandemic. Like, are you not paying attention?
I mean, they don't. It kind of leans to the fact that they don't want our entertainers thinking like that.
Right. So,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna tell you
Because they're
what. So,
influential. And you want your
right.
influential people out there doing destructive things, clearly. I mean, again,
Hey,
that's not
Mike.
just that's not me talking. Go out there and look at who is influential out there and look at what they promote from what they do.
So, Mike, I mean, he even started off this part of the interview with something like very poignant, and it's something me personally, as a man, as a Christian, that like I've been arguing with other blacks within my community about like literally for years, Mike. And that's that like when he says stuff like slavery didn't like bring Christianity to blacks. Like we're original man and creators of
Mm-hmm.
it. Like we're the creators of it. Like how can you say that we, you know, this enslavement, like we may have been contorted and distorted by the abuse of it.
Right.
But even to hear an artist say something like that to start off an interview, I'm like, we ain't gonna get this shit from nobody but yay, Tupac's not here.
Yeah, it's funny you say it like that, but you're right. If you're talking about on a mainstream level and everybody's
On a
like,
high level, not
yeah,
saying something like that to start off an interview. Who talks off by talking about we're the original blacks who wrote the Bible anyway? What is this slavery shit you talking about?
listen, man, anybody wondering what or wishes that Tupac was around in these times and what he would say, probably going to be very similar to what Kanye West has been
Gonna
saying
be
in
very
these interviews.
comparable. It's gonna come out different,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's gonna come out more poetic.
I mean, it may or may not, but I think that the tone of it too might be even similar. Like you could tell his frustration in his peers. But see, that's the thing, man. I think that's why Kanye West is the leader, one of the older artists who's able to be a leader for young artists and young hip hop fans, is because young people, regardless of whatever, they respect the truth. And young people will gravitate to the person that's just being real to them. That's how
No,
you're giving game to the young people. Like lying to young people and telling them that, okay, well, I hate to say it like this, but it's a passive way that a lot of older people seem to, talk to younger people. Just say, pray about it and don't give them any other, answers or solutions or dig deep in there. They're like, whatever. Young people don't want to hear that. And the way Kanye's talking, that's what young people want to hear. And I think that's why, even more so than a Jay Z, young people galvanize around Kanye and his message and his delivery. And it's interesting because the same people who were younger when he was saying George Bush doesn't care about black people, they got older and conformed a lot more. And now this man's crazy.
no, he's not crazy. See, that's what I'm saying. It's
No,
just
I
like
mean,
when
you
you
know what I'm
start
saying.
breaking it
They
down.
say
So,
that.
no, you talk about how the kids gravitate to the truth.
Hmm.
Well, that's a damn shame that you're saying that, Mike, because it's like, what the hell are the adults doing?
The adults are conforming and lying. The
Right, right.
adults
The
are
adults
doing
are over
what
here
they gotta
conforming. And,
do
hold on,
to
Mike.
get
No, no,
by.
no. So you make a very, very strong point. That's what I'm saying. The adults are conforming and lying. So what is it saying when the adults are calling him crazy?
They're
That's
lying.
the conformers and the liars.
What
Right.
Tupac say?
There you
Tupac
have it.
said, "Man, a black man gets tired after 30, and you just conform." Like all that young energy and all that shit that you were fighting for. Like, because if we could dial the clock back on a lot of people who are older now, who have conformed, who, just tired of fighting or whatever, when they were younger, they were out here in the streets. They were out here trying to get, certain things done. But when they get to a certain age and you have to conform and you have to, well, you don't have to do anything, but you know what I mean. It's,
Right.
you compromise to a certain extent.
I think
And
it's more acceptance than compromise, Mike. You
yeah,
accept certain things. Yeah.
exactly. And you get
Yeah.
tired. I think being tired is a part of it too.
No, so can I say a couple things?
Go
Like
ahead.
first of all, when To Pimp a Butterfly like came out and I heard that, like it hit me hard because it came from a place of me being in my mid 30s and knowing exactly what he was talking about. Because when To Pimp a Butterfly came out, I was actually in a process of like quitting some of that conforming and kind of just getting back to who I am. Like if you remember, that's around the time I started working for According to Hip Hop because
Mm.
I was sick of conforming to like what my life had become because I knew that like what was out here for me as a black man in America, oh well that shit really wasn't for me. And so when Tupac is saying that sentiment about that conforming, like Ye sounds crazy to you because you conform.
Some
And I know what it's
reprogramming
like
that
to
needs to take
conform.
place.
I know what it's like to be conformed and then have to like unravel that. You know what I'm saying? And it's hard and it's a process when you learn that you've accepted certain things. You know what I'm saying? That the younger you would have never ever accepted. That's why doing this is been so important to me the last 5, 6 years, Mike. It's been part of me unconforming myself and getting back to what the fuck it is that I do and who I am.
It feels
And so
good to
that's
be honest. You
crazy.
know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
we at this point we don't have anybody paying us to say, such and such is hot or such and such is top five and all that stuff. Like, and
I think
to
it's
just
even
be
better that
able
we
to,
don't want that shit, Mike. It's even better that we don't want that shit. It's like, get out my face with that shit, nigga.
cause listen, man. I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and tell y'all that Drake is top five or Drake is top 10 or Drake is who's better, Drake or Jay-Z. I'm not gonna say because I honestly don't feel that way. Now, if somebody wanted to get on the show and seriously felt that way, we would talk about it and we would break it down to why a person disagrees or whatever. But see, the thing is, I just couldn't, because I come from a radio background, right? I
Yep.
just couldn't. I couldn't go on Radio One or iHeartRadio or whatever and say the things that I say here. And I love hip hop too much to get on this microphone and lie to people. Now, am I right all the time? Nah. Of course, nobody's right all the time, but I'm at least giving you my honest opinion. And I couldn't do this thing if I had to go on iHeartRadio or whatever and tell y'all that Jay Z and Drake are in the same lane as lyricists. I couldn't do it.